Hello. Nice to see you. I know, it's very somber. I know it ends on a bad note, but that doesn't mean that we have to start like that. Hello, guys.
Hey,
thank you. This is not a pantomime, by the way. We are going to sort this out. But yes, welcome. It's so great to see all of your faces. So great to see some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces. We are set to have a great conversation tonight. First of all, actually, I'll just apologize for being half an hour late. That's what you get when you decide to do a show in a museum space. So that'll teach us never to do that again. Or maybe we will, who knows? But yes, hopefully you're enjoying the food. Hopefully you've been riled up with the film. And so we are set to have a great conversation tonight. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Tajpal Rathore.
And my name is Samran Rathore. And we're not related, just in case you're wondering.
We're not related, no. We are Tribe Arts. And I think just before we kind of get into the swing of the show, it's important to kind of explain, well, you're probably wondering what you're here to see, first of all. And so to kind of explain a little bit about Tribe Talks. Tribe Talks has been, it was one of the, well, it's the first show that we ever did when we came together as a company. The format of Tribe Talks, this sort of conversational format that's interspersed with performance and this sort of and the food sharing, because we think a conversation is best had when you're breaking bread with each other, was something that we had an idea of a very long time ago when we first started. And for us, it's just a format that allows us to be able to break down some of those difficult societal conversations that we've had. So we've held Tribe Talks on various different subjects since we've started. And for us, I think as a company, as the premier Black and Asian company in the North, we've really been very interested, and all of our work has been in some way connected with the effects of empire and colonialism, and how the history of that has impacted our presence and the reverberations and how they've kind of continued in ripples and the effects that it's had. So that is, for us, Tribe Talks was originally conceived to do that. But as the premier Black and Asian company of the North, it would be a little bit remiss of us to not do something and let the milestone of 75 years since partition go by. So it was absolutely important that we mark this in some way. This is a postponed show. It was actually supposed to happen when the 75th anniversary happens. So you're probably all confused if you are aware about the partition. So it has been, I think, 76 or 70. We're going into the 77th year, I think now. So we are heavily delayed, and we have been so excited for a year and a half, 2 years now, to share this evening with you. So thank you for those persevering with us for the 2 years, and welcome to those people who've just found out about it and have ended up here. So thank you very much. I want to just get the boring stuff out of the way. We are in a museum, so we're in a bit of a left field place to do a show. There is something about fire escapes I want to tell you, but I might tell you that later on, because I'm not quite sure where they would be. But you follow the fire escape. you follow the fire exits. And the other thing is, obviously, as we're serving food and drink as part of the show, please just be mindful about rubbish and things. So at the interval, if you could take the rubbish out with you, and there will be bins located outside, and even at the end of the show as well. Cool, so that's all the boring bits out of the way. I've told you a little bit about Tribe Talks and what the format generally is. The thing that really makes this Tribe Talks unique is that usually we develop it in-house, me and Sam, as the sort of artists. Sam usually does all the writing, I usually do all the presenting and the producing and just generally everything that we need to do to make the show happen. But this time around, we thought that because the topic of partition is so complex and because it involves everyone across the diaspora in some form, we wanted to use this opportunity to bring in more voices into the conversation and to try and diversify what we know is a very complex history, and I'm sure is going to be part of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And so we have united this time around with 3 South Asian writers who have created some incredible scenes that you're going to be witnessing tonight, and they've each been directed by a trio of directors. So there is going to be a different, distinct flavour with every performance that you see. It does complicate things incredibly when you're making theatre in that way, but I think that what we have prepared for you is going to be, well, it'll elicit conversation, let's put it that way. At least I hope it does. Just around the rules of the space, Tribe Talks is a safe, non-judgmental, no pressure, and completely non-politically correct space. So we believe that this particular space that you're in now for the next 3 hours, or however long this conversation goes for, maybe not beyond 3 hours, but we'll try and we want us to have a raw, honest conversation. We'll keep making sure that we remind you that throughout the night. We believe that's the only way that we're going to be able to break down some of these these complexities and have these conversations. And there is none of that. All of this will stay in this space, and we can see where the conversation leads us. So that's just some of the house rules there. So I think I've spoken a lot. All histories, obviously, in the end, do become stories, and that's what we want to share with you tonight, is the stories. So we'll start ours tonight, right at the very beginning, where all good stories and not so good stories start. So if you're ready to forgo your prejudices, we'll start our journey. I should say, just before we do, due to some unconcerned circumstances, we are down an actor and a presenter. So one of the presenters, Shruti Kabila, will not be joining us today due to circumstances outside our control. And also, the actor was taken ill, unfortunately. So one of the trio of directors will be stepping in for those scenes where the actor was. So please be kind. It is truly quite great. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go into the first act. So this is Pre-Migration.
मुझे लगता है कि इनका कोई चक्कर चल रहा है। अम्मी ने मुझे बोला था कि इससे बातें नहीं करनी क्योंकि ये थोड़ी अजीब सी औरत है ना? कैसे चलती है? पागल बैठ जा। I do love coming into the Gurdwara with you.
I know. I can tell by the way you eat so much prasad.
It's not just because of the prasad. But so what if I have a sweet tooth? It's just nice being in your place of worship with you.
Ooh, Eid Mubarak. Here, I got one for you and one for me. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to buy you any jewelry, so I thought this might make a good gift instead.
This is perfect. We can be like twins. People will think I'm sick now, but then again, everyone already thinks you're Muslim, the way my mum is always introducing you as her younger daughter. Eh? Very choti beti hai.
My dad says we may as well be sisters because we're so close.
That's true. Who needs brothers when you can have a sister? And anyway, boys are such hooligans.
Oh, and spoiled. Don't forget that bit.
Come on, let's go to my house. The food will be ready by now. My mom told me not to come back without you. And just like every Eid, she's made your favorite.
Semia?
Correct. She milked the buffalo first thing this morning, so she can make them all fresh and creamy, just how you like them.
Which cow did she milk?
She milked Munni, of course.
Because we all know Munni gives the best milk.
Where have you been? I've been waiting for so long.
Shh.
What? What is it?
I don't think they're coming this way.
Who? What are you talking about?
There were these men. Lots of them. They were running after this girl, asking her name, asking if she's Sikh or Muslim.
Is she all right? What did they look like?
I haven't seen them before. They were from the city, I could tell. They looked like they were hunting people.
Ya Allah, the mobs. I heard they were only in the Shahr. They're here now. Are you sure you lost them, Kiran?
I think so. I hope I did. I came from there. I think they were heading the other way.
What would I do if something happened to you? How would I face your mum and dad? They would think it was on my fault calling you here.
Don't be silly. If society tells us we can't be friends, then we'll do it in secret. You're my Vadi pen.
And you my choti pen.
I miss the days we just met up at my house or yours.
Things will get better when the British finally leave.
But Noor, the situation is worsening. I can feel it. Every day there are broadcasts of where Pakistan will be created and who will live there and who will live in Hindustan. And I've also heard about the mobs. My Taya told my father that Amritsar is the safest place for Singhs.
But your Taya cannot be certain about Amritsar or even Lahore. Look, I was up on Achabara and I heard a report on the radio coming from the neighbor's house. And the radio presenter said that whilst partition has been agreed, the boundary lines are yet to be decided. No one, not even the rich and the powerful, know where or how the Angrez will divide Punjab.
But that's just it. Nothing has been decided, and already there is so much bloodshed, so much violence.
My dad was working down at Lahore train station late at night. There was a midnight train that was full of Musliman coming over from Delhi. The train arrived, but
What happened?
apparently the train driver, who was sick, was part of the whole plan. He deliberately stopped the train when he wasn't supposed to, so that these evil mobs of men could get on and slaughtered everyone. My father said that there were bodies of women and children butchered to pieces, the bellies of pregnant women slashed open. He said there was so much blood that it gushed through the train and onto the platform.
I cannot believe that the train driver deliberately drove everyone to their deaths. Where's our humanity gone?
The worrying thing about it, my Khala and Khalu are meant to be arriving in 2 days with my cousin Umar. They're going to get on that train from Ambala. What if something...
Don't think the worst. Many people have arrived and nothing happened to them. May they be protected from any harm, inshallah.
I would say only Allah can save us now. But I think even He has turned His back on us. How could we do this? Over what reason? For our deen mazhab? Bas itni gal de piche.
But it is not a small goal, Noor. This land, this Bind, will most likely be Pakistan, your new Muslim homeland. It will be created based on our religious differences. So, of course, religion isn't a small thing.
How can you say that? This is your home too, is it not?
Yes, I know that, but
But what?
sometimes people move. Sometimes we have no choice.
But who gets to decide? We all grew up here. My family has been here since before my grandparents were born. Yours too.
I know. You can break up land and make as many nations and names as you want, but our hearts will still be connected.
Yes. Inseparable from my sister, no matter what.
No matter what.
And what's in a name anyway? So what if they call this mulk Pakistan? It's still our homeland, mine and yours.
What's in a name? All this is because of the names and labels. There are Muslim mobs raping Sikh girls and women in front of their fathers and brothers, making them run naked through the bazaar, burning their houses with everyone in them.
Well, it's not like Sikhs or Hindus are blameless, is it? They're slaying trainloads of Muslims. Innocent men, women, children, unborn babies, ripping them apart limb from limb.
But we're not the ones asking for a separate homeland. Just for us, the Sikhs are in the middle of both the Muslims and the Hindus.
Muslims did not just wake up one day and ask for their own country.
these bloody mobs. They attack the one thing our fathers and brothers can't bear. Us, our honor.
And what is honorable about attacking women? Why should we bear the brunt?
Because it's always been like this. We birth them, nurture them, feed them. Without us, there'll be no more men. They want to attack the root, the origin.
It still does not mean it is right.
Look, there's no point in us two bickering, is there? We girls need to stick together, look out for one another. We always seem to get a rough deal.
You're right. This is stupid. We are no better than the stupid men if we start falling out with one another. I pray for these men to get some akal. Whether it's the British, the politicians, or the mobs. They're all doing exactly what they want. But us women, we don't get a say in anything.
I think women are natural peacemakers.
Us women would never behave like this if we were in charge. This would not be happening. Either we would have quashed away any trouble at the first sign of it, or we would have negotiated peace a long time ago.
But the problem is we're not in charge, are we? Nor are we ever likely to be.
My father said that amidst the carnage at the station, there was a group of women on the platform who had got a fire and were making rotiyan. Imagine that. After somehow surviving those harrowing massacres, they're still thinking about their hungry families. Maybe one day, I don't know, perhaps in 50 or 100 years from now, violence against women and the killing of women in the name of honor will be a thing of the past.
But we also have other duties in life. I'm younger than you and I'm already engaged. We're not children anymore. We have to grow up and be responsible.
Have you not listened to anything I've said? Why would you pick now to lecture me about marriage?
I'm only thinking about you. I don't want you to be alone all your life. Our parents won't be with us forever.
My aspiration in life isn't just to marry a man and live in his bagal for the rest of my years. I want to be someone, make changes. And how will I be alone? I have you by my side.
I will always be your friend, Noor. But things change. I'm due to be married soon. Who knows where life will take me?
Well, wherever it takes you. I'll be there, won't I? Right by your side.
Why are you still wearing this?
What do you mean? You gave me this, a symbol of our friendship.
Do you know how dangerous that can be for you? It could get you killed.
It's just a karakiran.
It's not just a kara, Noor. Not here now in Lahore. Noor, out of respect for me, if I mean anything to you, then take it off.
No.
Noor, for God's sake.
Now you too, Kiran. It's just for now.
It's getting dark, we should go.
All right. Same time tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely.
You be careful, okay?
I will. Noor. I love you.
I love you too, Penny. Ammi, I did not even see you come in. I cannot get this radio to work. They were just playing some songs, and then a broadcast started, and now it's not working. We need a new radio, Ammi. Me and Kiran used to sing that song all the time. Remember, Ammi? She used to sing. Maawa te tiyan ral बैठियां ने माए कोई कर दिया गलोड़ियां.
Noor, I need to speak with you.
क्या हुआ? You seem upset, Ammi. What's happened?
I have something to tell you, Noor.
Is it Kala? Are they all right?
No, your Kala is all right, inshallah. Noor, it's Kiran. She's no longer with us. Our ladly Kiran is no longer with us, Noor.
What do you mean, Ammi?
Yesterday, a lot of the Sikh and Hindu families in the village left for Amritsar in the middle of the night.
They left already. She didn't even say they were going. Ammi, did she say?
Meri gal sun, Noor. You don't understand. Those Kamine mobs were going around their neighborhood. Kiran's father saw them as they prepared to travel. He couldn't bear to see what may happen in front of his own eyes. No father could.
What did he do?
He did what he felt he had to do. It can't have been an easy decision for him. Being left to those mobs may have been a worse fate for her. At least now she won't be harmed.
I need to see them. I need to see your parents.
Theo chale gaye. They've already left. There was nothing left for them here. Even in that moment, meri pyari thi Kiran, her last wish, she asked her father to give these kade to you. Her father gave them to your Abbu this morning as they prepared to leave Lahore for good. No, they had no other choice. Your Abbu said her father was a broken man. Half the Hasmukh person he once knew. They will never get over this.
What if it was me?
If it was you?
What if it was me, Ammi? Would you and Abbu have made the same decision?
So, the partition. One other thing I forgot to tell you about Tribe Talks is that actually the center of the show is you guys. So this is the space, really, for you to ask those questions and to have a conversation about the complexities or unpick some of the complexities of the things that you're seeing on stage and also just what you hear in the room. So we started our story in pre-partition India. It would be great now to just get a show of hands or some comments or anything around people's initial feelings about partition. Are there people in the room that don't know anything about partition? You all know about partition? Fantastic. Well, that's a really great start. So in terms of the kind of things that people have felt about the partition, Who wants to go first with maybe asking yes, straight away?
Yeah, I'm British born and bred. My parents are from Mir Badazad, Kashmir, and I strongly oppose the partition that took place. I completely disagree with it. I think we were better together, and yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting perspective. What does everyone else think? Does anyone agree with that, or have we got a disagreement? Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't going to answer that.
Okay. It's all right. Make your comment. Make your comment.
My name is Sakshi Gautam, and my grandparents from both sides have come from Pakistan to India. So it was a little bit disappointing that you didn't mention much about the Hindus, because yes, the Punjab was divided and a lot of Sikhs came, but a lot of Hindus came as well. And whatever you've mentioned, I've heard first-hand stories. My great-grandfather was killed during the migration, and my grandma still tells me stories. My dadi, she still tells me, my dadi tells me stories about how it was that they had to pack everything. They're from Lahore, Peshawar, Gujranwala. They had to pack everything and leave, maybe not overnight, but in a few weeks. And my grandma, I remember telling her, she said the girls were laden like cattle in trucks. She said it was so suffocating, we thought we were going to die, but we were told if you weren't put in there, we will kill you, because otherwise you'll be raped and killed. And she said when we were put in there, some of us broke our bones, but we didn't have a choice, and we didn't want to stay. We were quite happy to get our bones broken. And then obviously they stayed as refugee first in Haryana, then they all moved to Delhi for a really long time, maybe a few years, but
I think that's one of the most interesting points that you've raised there. I think one of the things that we try to do in this scene, and I think one of the things that really comes up, especially in the theme when you talk about partition, is the sheer violence that was used, and how that switch happened overnight, almost instantaneously. I mean, is there anyone in the room that has? There is another comment there, so I've seen you. I'm going to come to you. Is there anybody in the house that has any stories that have been handed down to them in terms of specifically the violence and some of the, brutality that existed? Is there anyone?
Yeah, hi, I'm Divya.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you have a story. So,
yeah, hi. Thank you so much. I teach at the University of Leeds, and I come from a family of partition refugees, but from the other side of the border, which is Bengal, which is where the other frontier state was. I think the comments have really opened up an interesting space. Just want to share a quick story. My maternal grandmother, who had to leave what is now Bangladesh, at that point of East Pakistan, on a kind of an evening, never went back at age 16. And I've never heard before, she's no longer there, but I never heard a word of communal hatred from her, right? And right now, as I see around, and as you know, the 75th year was called the Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav. There's very strong, and let's put it not mildly, very directly, there's the politicization of the binary. The politicization of the binary between religions, between people, which is beneficial for some, not for most.
Yeah.
And therefore,
please feel free to clap. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Just, it's not really because, hearing this, seeing this is very visceral for most of us, because we've grown up with this. There's nothing really worth clapping. I'm sorry, because this is just who, it's not gone past us. Just wanted to plug or point something out that has been an immediate legacy of the partition, where the refugee camps that stayed on, I can talk about the camp that I am aware of. There's a camp called Cooper's Camp in a place called Nadia in Bengal, which had no status for the refugees who were there, who did not have an identity, neither citizenship. And as you know, the Citizenship Amendment Act is coming up in India right now. So I think it's worth thinking about the continuing legacy, what Wazira Zamindar calls the long partition.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most interesting things as well, like you mentioned. Thanks very much for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Is how actually the effects of partition are still reverberating with us today. And, I'm sure we'll get to the point in the conversation when we talk about India today and in its global presence right now, but also any kind of problems that internally may have perpetuated from the time of partition and beyond. Yes, sir. Can we get a mic up there?
Hello.
Yeah.
There was some very interesting comments happening there. I think we all missed the fundamental part of that story where there was just pure love. And that pure love, that scene, that innocence between two girls who just saw each other for who they were is resonating so much in the way that we don't see each other as adults, but we do as children. Because at school we're taught, just play with each other, it's fine. We grow up and then it's learned behaviour and we start to learn all these things that we should be divided by, but in the end, it shouldn't really matter. And I think that's what I took away from that story. So.
No, thank you. Really appreciate that comment. I think you're right. I mean, a lot of the times we'll fixate on the violence and we'll talk about how Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs became enemies overnight, but we know that must have been more than that. You can't just become enemies overnight and start killing your neighbours. So, a lot of the stories I've heard and a lot of stories I've heard from other people about their grandparents, it's more about how they saved each other rather than how I went and killed my neighbour. So I'd be really interested if anyone has got those kind of anecdotes and stories as well.
Sorry, can I just say, so if you do have a point at any point in this thing, can you just leave your hands up so we can see you? We can keep coming to you.
I think we've got...
there's a lady over there, if we can get a mic over there. Just before you make your point, I think one of the things that we'd like to really touch on in this section is some of the stories around, I guess, what are now considered or contemporarily considered as heroes of independence. And I think that's one of the questions that we really wanted to delve into, just even as an organisation ourselves. And when we've taken the film that you saw at the beginning, we've taken that across the country separately, and that's instigated quite a lot of conversation and different opinions on what we talk about in that poem, is the idea that actually there was this separation that had previously existed before the partition, and actually the British came in and just kind of did the job for them and just, did the thing that they were always asking for. And it'd be really interesting just to delve into that, if there's any sort of comments and questions about that. Yes?
Hi. Both of my parents were children in the partition. They're still alive. Dad's 90. So they've only just started talking about it in the last few years because it was so traumatic. But that brutality, all Dad talks about was the bodies that he saw. He was about 13 when partition happened. But for both families, it was their Muslim, we're Hindu, all their Muslim neighbours helped them get to safety. They helped them get to what's now India because they were in Surat and Wazirabad. But my auntie was one of those that ended up in one of the refugee camps. So they were at one of the frontier camps. Her sister had just got married and all of the men had their throats slit in front of them, and the women were taken to a camp. So Auntie died a few years ago. I'd wanted to write her story, but she never spoke about the partition as well. And I think I'm fortunate that I've still got parents alive that can tell me these stories, but we've lost so much. I just want to say one thing about love as well. These stories after partition, Dad had two good friends. One was Sikh and one was an English boy whose family had stayed behind. They opened a bakery, so that love and that friendship existed, even though my dad saw all of that bloodshed and killing.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you so much.
I think you're right. I mean, just to share a personal story about my family, like there was, I think there's an African proverb that says when an old person dies, a library goes with them. And it's absolutely true. We are now really approaching that generation. In fact, we may have actually elapsed that generation that are now existing who can help and who can tell us those stories and contextualize the histories that we can only now read about in books or come and see plays about. And actually, it was such a complicated time and such a complex set of things were going on globally as well as in India. I think the thing that's predominated is the violence, and obviously the violence is a key part. A story that happened in my family about the violence in itself. My grandma, who didn't talk about partition really for much of her life, and when she'd see a film or something, she'd make a comment about something like "Sei galle," as in that's the truth. Yeah, that's right. And there'd always be moments of violence when she's making that comment, and it was revealed later on in the family that there was a period in her life where a mob of Hindu mob, or it was a Muslim mob, I can't actually remember, and I suppose that's the whole point, isn't it? It's immaterial what side it was on. They were coming down the same street that they were on, and in my grandma's family, I think they had 2 sons, and most of them were girls. They were all sisters, and they were prepared as a family to for the brothers to chop them up effectively and to kill them before the mob reached them. And I mean, when you hear, and I'm sure there's probably people in the audience that have got similar stories, but that was the type of mentality that was existing at that period, where you had readied yourself to actually die. And maybe because of circumstances that you don't even understand. I mean, people probably, there was so much confusion, people probably didn't understand these things. Yes, you wanted to, can we get a mic there? Oh, sorry, I'll come to you in just a moment. I think there's a...
Hi, I'm Chris Simran, and I belong to a Sikh family, and my paternal grandparents both moved from Pakistan to India during the partition. I think they were really young, maybe teenagers or just under. And I've lost them both now, and I really regret not documenting the things that they used to tell me. I have a memory of actually a shop in Edinburgh that used to sell old maps, and the person in there was selling a map of undivided Punjab. And I remember I broke down into tears, and I couldn't understand why. And I think it was because I saw there listed all these names, Sialkot, Lyalpur, places that my grandparents used to talk about, where they were born, brought up, places that they had all their childhood memories, but places that we might never be able to visit. And I think I just realised that somewhere inside me, there's like a piece of me that's like been left behind.
Sorry, no, it's perfect. Go on. Please take your time, Shall we move on to the next? Shall we move on to the next comment? Or do you want?
I think I grew up hearing really mixed stories, if I'm honest. Stories of love, of how everyone lived in unity, and there was no difference between people. They'd be eating at each other's houses, playing together, going to school together, laughing together, knowing full well that they were different faiths and there were differences, but they were respectful. But also there was so much distrust after the violence that had broken out. They knew that there were good people that had helped each other to get away and to get to safety, but there'd also been so much hatred between them, hatred that led to violence between people that may have been friends at some point, and often it was strangers. And how that those sentiments get passed down to generations. And I mean, now I'm 30-something-year-old with my own views, and I've broken out of that sort of shell of what those judgments that are passed on to you of how you should view the others, whether you should look at them with trust or hatred, or whether or not you should be friends with them, and what you can expect of others. And you develop your own views. But I think it's also bred in me a lot of insecurity about what you can actually call home. I've now discovered that actually my ancestors, I don't even know how far back, were in what is present-day India, had then gone to Pakistan, as it's called today. Then after partition, they came back to their ancestral lands in India, and that's where they got allocated their land. And now I'm here in England. And who knows if this can always be home. And I genuinely have this feeling of, what does your passport really mean? What does your citizenship really mean? What does home really mean? There's nothing you can call your own.
Can we just... Thank you so much for your comments and for your contribution. I realise, and I just obviously want to just explain to the room as well, that obviously we anticipated that there were going to be moments like this, and in fact we have, and I think this is just testament that of the effect of partition and how it still is so relevant today. In fact, one of the questions that we started this whole project with was, why as British Asians are we even bothered about the partition? Why are we even talking about it? How does it relate to us? And clearly from some of the comments, it does. Can I take a comment from you? Yes.
I'm from Bangladeshi heritage, so 50 years, 2021 was 50 years of Bangladesh's independence. That's another partition from East Pakistan, from West Pakistan. And my personal experience is from my eldest auntie, paternal aunt. I regret not taking the history. From my parents, whilst they were alive, sorry. But I've taken it from my eldest auntie, who lived in the Manningham area. But she said very clearly how the Bangladeshi Muslims, the East Pakistan Muslims, protected the Hindu, because there's no difference. When they were brought up with the Sikh temples and the mosques, when they were at school, there was no difference. So they protected deliberately. And what would happen was the Muslims in East Pakistan deliberately then took Hindu men and women and children, not the men, the women and children, to the outer skirts, the villages where the road track hadn't been made, so there wasn't good transport. And they would hide people in outer buildings, in ponds.
Yeah.
And that she recalls people that women had to hide in those sort of areas. So there's a lot of cooperation between Muslim East Pakistan and Hindu East Pakistanis who then become Bangladesh in 1971.
Yeah.
So I just want to say there are horror stories, my aunties have mentioned that, but equally lots of positive where you look at more secular, that people didn't look at the religion, they were just Bangladeshi full stop.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think it's stories like this and the comments people are making about the love that was there between everybody is what we need these safe spaces for. Because I think most of the time, the narrative that gets spun is that everyone hates each other. I mean, me and Taj have been in situations where...
Yes, I'm Sikh, by the way, and he's Muslim, but we have the same... So we should just give you a little background about that. So we're not related, and we were absolutely shocked when we discovered each other, I guess, in a company where we were in a play together. Yeah. And we were just trying to work out, I was like, oh, so what, so you're Sikh, I'm assuming. Like, you do look Sikh, to be fair. Like,
I don't know what Sikh looks like.
I don't know what Sikh looks like, but it's a different conversation.
I mean, my background is, we're originally from Kashmir, but Kashmir on the Indian side, so we can't go back. So when they left Kashmir, they went to Jammu, and from Jammu they went to Punjab. So I completely get what you were saying earlier on about being displaced that many times. I mean, what is my home? Is it Kashmir, or is it Jammu? Is it Pakistan, Punjab, which is currently where my family's from? But I'm in England. If I move to China, for example, will that be home?
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. But one thing I was just going to say on the back of your comment about the unity and the love that existed is that another thing that we, I guess, don't really touch upon too much in these conversations is the unity that existed organisationally in people like Bhagat Singh, Udham Singh, who were very much at the forefront of the fight against the British. I'd be really interested if anyone's got any stories in that respect of the freedom fighters who fought for the... Sorry, yeah, I think did you have your hand up now?
There is a comment down there. If you hold that comment just for 2 minutes. There is actually, just on the Bhagat Singh and Udham Singh, I think one of the things that really was surprising for me, actually, as a Sikh guy, I know that it kind of goes into the point that you made there about the missing narrative of the Hindus in what we were doing there. And I think it is, the conversation around partition is predominantly dominated by the Sikh-Muslim divide. And one of the questions I had was why that is the case, given that India is a majority Hindu country. Where is the Hindu element of that? And the other thing that came to mind as I was as we were looking into it, was how the idea of partition, we've called it partition specifically and not independence, because it's also known as independence to people in the countries that we're talking about. So there's two sides to this conversation. And it's celebrated in wildly different ways and marked in wildly different ways depending on who you are. We've taken the film around to different parts of the country, and we've had people from India and Pakistan who've seen the film who just can't understand why we've made a film about the partition and why it's so dark. Yeah. Because for them, they see it as a period of when the British left the country and they got their independence. So it's never been understood as a dark, well, it's been understood as a dark period, but they've now marked it in the country of the origin. It's seen as a moment of pride to be able to get control of the country. Yes, you had a comment.
Hi, my voice will probably shake. I'm a bit nervous. You started off by saying, does everybody know about partition? And nobody else put their hands up, so I didn't. But I don't. I was adopted as a baby. I'm brought up by white British parents, but my birth father would have been a young boy during partition. I believe, from what I know, that he lived in India and moved to Pakistan and then to England. And so when we talk about belonging and home, I have always wondered what it means to belong. And when we talk about religion and nationality and citizenship, those things mean nothing to me. Mm-hmm. And this is just so interesting, so thank you for this.
Thank you very much for your comment.
We have 10 seconds for this section.
Okay, well, maybe a bit more than 10 seconds, because I don't know if I can... Fantastic point. I think this is something that we're going to build onto as the night goes on, because that's where this conversation ultimately leads. Wherever we've had this conversation, ultimately, this history that happened all the way over there in a country called India and Pakistan now, this conversation always turns into what it means to be British here and what it means to the idea of identity is, and the comment that you made about, you know, where do you call home and where do you belong? And actually, these conversations reverberate across the empire. And one of the things that we have been really interested in as an organisation, we're a Black and Asian organisation, in the fact that we have a dual focus in the interest that how we want to look at the empire. So for us, of working out how this empire, this colonial hand, dealt two different communities in the same and often different ways, and where they ended up is really, really interesting. And often it was a process of trial and error, and we can probably get into that. So there's so many other things that were on my sheet. There is one, if it's a brief comment, say, is it?
Yeah, I'm from Lahore, which is on the border of India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, I asked my grandparents and also my uncles that we hear all this hatred or bloodshed, what happened in the partitions. And they said, yes, that is true, but there is also, my grandparents especially, they were so fond of their Hindu neighbors, their Sikh friends, and they used to talk about how they used to go in different places and eat food with each other's houses and stuff like that. So the word hatred was never really being part of their conversation. They always talk about how well they live together. So I think when this partition happened and all this bloodshed happened, that was a mob culture, because what was happening, from one side, people were saying, the train is coming full of dead bodies. So when that news came in, people from probably, which is now Pakistan, they did the same to take a revenge, and probably, so the missed news or fake news or whatever that was, and I think that what has caused all this bloodshed, or made it worse. I don't think there was a hatred between the communities. I don't want to believe that. Because I have Hindu friends, I have Muslim, Sikh friends. I'm a Muslim. I don't feel anything different towards them. Or, I mean, they look like me. They eat. We share more values than anybody else in the whole world. We are more close to Hindus and we're more close to Sikhs than any other nations. So I don't really have hatred word. I don't think it's the right word. I experienced a small mob thing when there is if there is a demonstration, you will see people behave in a way that don't normally behave. And probably that's exactly what has happened in partition. And they were not hatred.
Thank
you. Just a mob.
Thank you. I think you're absolutely right, and I think one of the things that and Shruti, if she was here, probably would have gone into this, because I know this is a research interest that she is looking at, is whether actually the after effect of setting up that fake news from the establishment was part of the strategy to be able to cause that divide, and whether it was the fact that they just let the sort of cat into the bag and just let the bag rip, and you know it was that kind of thing. Very brief comment. We need to move on to the next session. Yes.
On the point that the gentleman's made and that you made as well, which is that there was a lot of love in those communities, because my own mother and my maternal grandparents lived alongside Sikhs, alongside Hindus, and they slept in each other's houses, ate each other's food, celebrated each other's festivals. But the key factor here and the kind of linchpin, which is not the right word for this, is that the British came in and they had a well-honed policy of divide and rule, and they are the ones that instigated the violence. They're the ones, the British, that carried out the mass murder, because it was a tinderbox. No, India wasn't a tinderbox, but they created a tinderbox. And the tinderbox was started way before the British got there with the East India Corporation, the East India Company. And it kind of set up, so this is something that's been building up for centuries, but when Imperial Britain came in, and it absolutely, that was the only way that it was going to take the resources, rape and pillage the country of any economic and social value that it had that was tied into it. And this was the only way to do it, is through that fake news, is through the political divide.
Sorry, don't worry.
Yeah, so no, what we,
That isn't part of the show.
I was like, is that the soundtrack for the next scene? So we're moving on to the next section now, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think one of the things that was really strange for me and Sam when we were looking into this was the fact that actually, when the British were there, one of their solutions was, you know what, you're Hindus, we'll give you your space because you're asking for it. Your Sikh, we'll give you your, well, I may give you your space. If you're Muslim, we'll give you your space. And then when partition happened, we made migrations over into this country, and suddenly we're all just, as we say in the film, Pakis, and we're all just lumped in as one. So what was the point of partition then? What was the point of separating if all we were going to do is meet together in the end? And actually being really lucky in this country, because some of those people, like you've mentioned, some of the comments that we've heard, some people, siblings, some friends that have been friends for years, never ever saw each other again if they stayed in the country. But they came here, and suddenly there was a connection.
Exactly.
It's one of the paradoxes of partition, and I think this is a theme that will run. We do need to move into the next section, because I know we're overrunning slightly. And so, yeah, I suppose that dovetails nicely into the next section, because what happened after partition? There was migration. So the next section is migrations.
You scared me, G. I didn't even hear you come in.
I'm not surprised. I thought I walked onto a film set by the sound of it.
Mary Jaan, I've been so busy. I cleaned the shelf. Look, it looks brand new. And look, the wall, all those marks are all gone. Just need wallpaper now. And look here, the carpet. I got all those stains out finally after days of scrubbing.
ठीक सही है.
What's wrong?
Nothing, कुछ भी नहीं.
Hey, what is this? Since when?
की दसा तेनू सकीना. What can I say? Where do I start?
Maybe start by telling me where you bought these smelly things. My mother hated them. They smelled the whole house out when my dad was alive. Was work hard today? You know, these night shifts can be very hard. At least with Mariam, I'm up for her feet, but she sleeps most of the night.
It's not the hours, it's people.
Chalo, there's plenty of people in the factory. You don't have to be everyone's friend.
Dirty black bastard.
What?
That's what somebody called me today. Just because I sat at the wrong desk. So he called me a dirty black bastard.
Who said this?
Just some Englishman who was angry because I sat on his seat. So he called me dirty like I was a piece of shit. You should have seen it in his face. There was so much disgust.
Did you tell the manager? I am sure they cannot call his names like this. This is England. They have workers' rights. Hey, G, I haven't cleaned that part yet.
Sakina, you always have a way of making everything seem brighter. Always happy and positive. But the world out there, John, is very hard. You are safer inside these walls, believe me.
Maybe you should look for somewhere else. Maybe this town is too small. Maybe we should move to a bigger city.
Bigger city? But I thought you liked it here.
Well, maybe if it was a nicer area, you know, with more English people, wealthier people, we could live alongside them, and maybe they would accept us more.
What should we do then? Move with what money? I already work all hours of the day as it is.
Well, I'm just trying to help you find you a solution.
Well, it's not a very realistic one. Sakina, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mary Jaan, please. I thought you said it's not clean here.
I don't care. I sit in dirt.
Acha, you sit in dirt. What? The wallpaper, the mirrors, dirt. There's one stain that you forgot to clean. It's this one right here. I had dreams of being a teacher. I studied for 5 years. It was not only my dream, it was Ammi and Abu's dream too. To educate myself, to teach, to make a difference in the world.
And you still can, Ji.
Don't feed me these sweet lies, Sakina. My future is working in that factory. My dreams of teaching, that's all gone now. And you know the other Pakistanis at work, they said I'm even lucky to get this job.
They are not sweet lies. I know this is only temporary. But Ji, you are a educated, loving, handsome man. And I know one day you will get us out of here and we'll move somewhere nicer.
I'll hold you to your dreams. But I've made my peace with it all now. So even if it means I have to work all hours of the day in that godforsaken factory, even if it means I have to put up with idiots like that Gora at work, I'll happily do it, so long as I can provide for you and my Mariam.
Mariam will not struggle. She will have a better future. She is born here.
Yes.
She'll be educated. And she will work like a true English woman. Doctor, I think.
What's wrong with being a teacher?
Acha, why teacher is saying?
But English woman, Sakina, I don't want her to forget her roots, who she is.
Look, I know, and she won't, because she will always have us to remind her to speak with in Punjabi, to remind her that she is no less than an English woman. But she is a Nazir, daughter of Professor Mukhtar Nazir.
Inshallah.
When she is older and goes to school, I want to work too.
What? Why do you want to work? Am I not enough?
No, Jeep, I want to help too. I can't sit here just staring at these walls all day.
But it's dangerous out there, Sakina. You know, they're already protesting in the streets against us coming here. So many of our people have been attacked and murdered. I can't allow you to put yourself in such danger, Sakina.
No, listen, you know Mandeep and her husband Ajit at number 52? Mandeep told me she sews skirts in a house for a factory. She doesn't have to leave the house. She just needs a sewing machine. And I used to sew for my mother all the time in Pakistan. So once Mariam is older, I want to get a sewing machine and work from home too to help us. Will you get me a sewing machine when we can afford it?
You don't need to go to the factory?
No, the English lady comes and picks it all up.
Acha. Well, in that case then, okay. I know you're a strong woman and very, very hardworking. And I know you can't sit in one place too long.
As will Lahore, the kudiyan, as you come nahi. No, Rajiv, please, let me. Now rest. I'll go make some cha. Shall I make the kadak cha, Ji?
Sakina.
Hi, Rabba.
Sakina, come here. जो वादा किया वो निभाना पड़ेगा रोके जमाना चाहे रोके खुदाई तुमको आना पड़ेगा
What is this?
जो वादा किया वो आना पड़ेगा
What is this?
You do know I was a first-class dancer back in Pakistan.
Acha, your mother never mentioned that when our rishta got settled.
Well, she also never mentioned you wanted to be an actress.
Well, if I didn't marry you, who knows? I could have been Bollywood's most sought-after heroine.
Well, Sakina ji, you'll always be my superstar. तरसती निगाहों ने आवाज दी है मोहब्बत की राहों ने आवाज दी है Go and see if Mariam is okay.
Don't go out, please, Ji.
Second time this month. Bastards! So you think you are so tough? Come and knock on my door and you'll fucking see what I do to you bad jobs! They're gone.
Is this all we are worth? We work hard all night, they call us names and then they come and attack us in our own homes. How long do I have to put up with this, Mukhtar?
Well, your brother would say that all his daughters married off at 18.
Not really. Shabina has a career.
Yeah, but she's also 35 and has short hair like a boy. You know what that means.
So,
Oh, sorry, Putter. You said you had something important to tell us.
well, kind of.
Was it about the car you wanted, Putter? We told you, once university is finished.
Oh, no, hold on. If she wants a car, and if it means it'll be easier for her to drive than to get on a bus to university, then I'll get her one. Putter, you just say the word. It's not a big deal. Money is not an issue.
Acha! If you're feeling so rich Mukhtar ji, maybe I should get a new car. All the ladies at work are driving Mercedes.
No, guys, see, well, it's not about the car. It's about, well, you know my friend Katie?
Yes, Katie the Millers. What about them?
Well, her brother Joe, he's...
He's what?
Me and Joe, I just really need you to understand and for your blessings, Mum, Dad.
Blessings? For what?
Well, I really like Joe. We've liked each other for a while now, and Dad, he says he wants to marry me after uni, of course, but I said I'd ask for your blessings first, and I...
Do you have to do this right now? What?
You have brought shame on both your mother and I. You're lucky we don't live amongst Pakistanis, or we'd be finished.
Shame. Dad, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about marriage with him. I won't allow it.
Wait, Dad, this doesn't even sound like you. Mum?
Look, just give us a minute, Mariam.
No, Mum. You both raised me and Junaid here, away from other Pakistanis, away from, like, silly community values and expectations.
They are not silly values, Mariam. Asi Musliman hai. Living in a nice house and having English friends does not change that.
No, Mum. You said it was enough that we knew our faith and spoke our mother tongue, and most of all, we respected you both.
You call this having respect, Mariam? You call this having respect for your faith?
Abu, respect isn't about accepting everything I'm told or doing as I'm told.
Look, Mariam, we have never told you what to do. We have never placed any restrictions on you.
Then why, Mum, do you both sound like you're in some village in Pakistan?
Have some respect. A village in Pakistan is where I come from.
But you tried everything to show the world otherwise, right? Dad, I like Joe. He's good for me. This is my choice.
Let me tell you about choices. My Pua liked a Hindu boy. She wanted to marry him. Her parents urged her against it because she would have to leave the village and they would never be able to live in peace. But she left anyway, to walk away to live her happily ever after. 2 weeks later, she came back because his family did not want a Muslim in the house. She came back to her dad, my grandfather, dead from heartbreak.
But you know the Millers? They're educated, they have businesses. Joe's already an accountant, for God's sake. Your boy, those were different times.
No, they're different. They will never accept you.
You said you wanted to raise us away from our community because of their judgment. You said you wanted to raise me and Junaid here because we could have had a better chance amongst other English people. You said this, Dad. That's why you both moved here.
Yes, and it nearly killed me. But I did it. I worked day and night until I could afford to move here. It was all to give you and Junaid a better future. But you've forgotten your limits. Live amongst them, work with them, be friends, fine. But this, I can't allow.
Mariam, try to understand. Your dad is right. They will never accept you.
Do you even know what these people are like? You know how much your mother and I had to first put up with when we moved here?
You can't put that on me, Dad. That isn't fair. I didn't ask to be born.
Mariam, don't talk so stupid.
It's true, though. You guys chose to come here. You guys chose for me to be born here. Why didn't we just stay there in Pakistan where there were more Pakistanis? But no, you wanted to leave that town and come here. Why? Because you wanted to live amongst other people, for me to interact with people who didn't all just look like me. So why can't I just live like them?
We came here for you. We came here so you and your brother Junaid could have opportunities we wouldn't have even dreamt of. Your father wanted to be a teacher. He was a teacher in Pakistan. And now you're living his dream by studying to be one. We made the sacrifices, Mariam, so you wouldn't need to.
And now she wants to sacrifice her whole life, her parents, her brother, by going off with someone who will never see her as his equal.
I know what you both went through, the racism, the name calling. I remember I was there, but that was my childhood too, and it's different now.
What different? That incident in the playground, your last year of school, when those white girls called you a Paki because you speak in Punjabi with Junaid?
Bas. Mariam, stop this pagalpan. What you trying to do, make him ill? You know he has high blood pressure.
Mum, Dad, I love you both, I do. But I need to do this for myself. This is my life. And while I understand the sacrifices you've both made, you can't guilt trip me for them.
So what exactly are you saying, Mariam?
There's nothing for me here anymore. And if you can't accept me for what I want, then I can't stay here anymore. I'll come back later for my stuff, Mum.
Listen to me, Mariam. If you walk out of that door, don't you ever come back.
No,
Try.
Okay, just once, okay? Just once. It's really nice.
Yeah? So then I made a savory one too.
No, I swear I've eaten. No.
Eat.
Just once more, okay? It is really, really good. But no, I swear I've eaten and I'm really, really full, okay? No.
This is special.
No.
It's special.
No.
Acha pakoda.
No, seriously, no, I'm okay.
I know samosa or I'll make you a big paratha.
I don't want it, no. I've already eaten. I swear, Mom made me roti before I came up, Baba.
Oh, leave her alone, Sakina. Always stuffing everybody's faces. There's a reason why I have this tid, Putter. Look at this tid. It's all her fault.
Please. Your Baba can't resist the laddus. Everyone knows how you got that belly. Ambala's mithai.
अच्छा फिर पुत्र स्टडीज कैसे जा रही है? यूनिवर्सिटी जाना वे अगले साल?
जी
और कुछ भी दस बाबे नू
मैं rugby अच्छी खेलनी है. But how do I explain it?
पंजाबी पुत्र, speak पंजाबी.
मैं captain बन गई हूँ.
No, Safia doesn't speak Punjabi very well. Time and time again asking her to speak it.
Well, that's how she will learn.
Bas karo ji.
I don't get the big deal. You both speak English.
Going forward, I won't.
Bas. Right. I need to get my gym bag. I've got a yoga class 6 o'clock sharp. Safia, pay no mind to him, okay?
Acha. Captain of the school rugby team, huh?
Yeah. I've been thinking about playing professionally too.
Acha, professional, like Ikram Bhatt?
Who?
Ikram, what putter? The first Pakistani, actually the first Asian rugby player to ever play for England.
Well, I was thinking more like Michaela Stanford.
Don't know him.
Baba, it's a she. A girl. Like me. Why would I want to be the next Ikram Ball? A man.
Yeah, why? Because you and Ikram are the same. He's Pakistani, you're Pakistani.
Oh, come on, Baba. Just because he's Pakistani, it doesn't mean I have to be compared to him. It's hard enough being a female in this sport.
Well, that's another thing, putter. Those kapde that you have to wear, such short shorts, why?
All that running around, all that sweating. What do you expect me to wear, Baba? A jilbab? And anyway, I've seen those kabaddi videos that Dad watches. They wear next to nothing.
Kabaddi is a man's sport. Sakina! Ki gal kardi bhai?
Oh. Hey, Jess. Yeah, nearly. I'm just at me Gramps. What, really? Well, I thought we were going for an Indian. Well, I booked Akbar's. Yeah. So if you get there before me, it's under Saf. All right, love.
Putter, who's Saf?
Saf is me, Baba.
But your name is Safia. Do you know the meaning of this name?
I don't know. Dad never said.
Yes, he wouldn't, would he? Putter, Safia means pure. I should know because I chose it. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. Pure. I like it. I can tell my mates that.
See, that's why I'm saying, don't shorten it to Saf. Why do that when your name has such a beautiful meaning?
Okay, Baba. Safia it is. Okay?
Safia Putra, I've made your favorite dessert.
Oh my God, you made kheer.
Oh, and koi gal samajh nahi aaundi. Putter, wasn't you learning Urdu in the madrasa? What happened?
Oh. So the mosque teacher got ill and I never went back.
But there are other mosques.
Yeah, well, I've not had a chance. What with training after school and that. Don't worry, Baba. I've been Googling how to pray namaz. It's not that hard, really. A few months and I'll have it down to a T.
Months?
Okay, Baba. Dado, I'm going to go now. Need to go and get ready.
Already, Putter?
Well, in a bit, yeah. Going to that new Indian-owned restaurant in the evening. Do you know Akbar's?
Indian? They're Pakistani?
Dado, now this kid is really nice. You know what I'm like with spices?
Well, you don't eat roti. That's not even spicy.
Well, you can only have it with curry, can't you?
You know, Putter, you should eat that with a spoon. Just take one with you.
I thought real Asian food is eaten with hands.
Oh, for God's sake. Oh, car vich roti nahi pakdi. Ah, dekh la Sakina. Oh, hatta naal kadi kheer khai jandi hai.
Your granddad is just saying you should eat more curries at home because it's so tasty. He thinks you're missing out.
Thank you for this. Baba, it's Safia from now on. Teek?
Stay safe, beta.
Okay. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz, Baba.
Key Lord CG, acting like an angry school bully.
Punjabi is atrocious, Sakina.
You know she's never spoken it well. Her dad stopped speaking after university and her mother, well, those Karachi wale barely speak Urdu at home.
But imagine if we couldn't speak English. I mean, imagine if I came to this country without an education, and you too. How else would we converse with our own flesh and blood?
But we can and we do. What is the point in worrying about something that hasn't happened?
But Sakina, this girl, she can't even pray. She doesn't even know how to read her namaz. I mean, she's a Muslim. Chal, chhad de Punjabi Urdu nu, eh? But she's a Muslim like me, like her dad. She's 16 years old and she doesn't even know how to pray. You know, my brothers were uneducated. They couldn't read or write. I was the smart one. But they all knew how to pray. It's a basic and obligatory once you're of age to know how to pray.
But maybe if she grew up around more Muslims. Look, we could speak to Junaid. She's only 16, she's a child. We can teach her, me and you.
You make it sound so simple, Sakina. She's got her own life. Even today, she came around after weeks. And what do you mean by raving around non-Muslims? You regret coming to England now?
No, I mean here. We moved here because we wanted them to integrate, assimilate, and see other people that didn't look like them. But I'm just saying, maybe if they grew up around more Muslims, she would know more about her faith.
I don't think that's true. I mean, look at Azim's son. They all grew up here, and they built that mosque on Lever Street. And they all speak perfect Punjabi. And anyway, you wanted to move here too. You said our old neighbors were too nosy.
I did? Look, I'm not just blaming you. I am just saying it could be a reason.
But how, Sakina? We moved all the way here to England from Pakistan. And remember when we first moved here, there wasn't even halal meat shops. We had to go to those Yahudi butchers. But we did it, and we still kept our identity. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਯਾਦ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਬਟਵਾਰਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੰਬਾਲਾ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਰਾਤੋਂ ਰਾਤ ਲਾਹੌਰ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਏ ਮੈਂ ਅਬੂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਨਵਾਂ ਮੁਲਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ You know what my father said? He said, ਬਸ ਮੁਖਤਾਰਾ ਬਸ ਕਰ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਰਫ ਦੋ ਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਆ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ੁਬਾਨ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਜ਼ਹਬ ਇਹ ਦੋ ਕਦੀ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲੀ
ਸਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ
Imagine I die next week or next month or today. Who will come to my janaza? Our friends? This local community? They're not even Muslim.
Why are you talking about these things, Ji?
Because it's true, Sakina. Junaid probably doesn't pray. Nor his wife, and now Safiya. The feeling of knowing my only grandchild won't even be able to read a simple dua for me when I die. It hurts. Was it worth it, Sakina? We left everything we knew behind to come here, start afresh, protecting these children, working like dogs. Kis vaste? Sanu ki naam milya? Inam nahi, sirf nuksan.
What nuksan, Muqtar? We live well, we have our health.
Such dreams we had. Coming here, starting a new life. Who knew we literally had to fight for our existence and our nishani that we leave behind?
All this talk about Nishani, Safiya is here. She is close to us. Try to get her to adhere to rules we never instilled in her in this environment. I just don't want to push her away like Maryam.
Oda navina lamirage. Don't mention her name to me.
Why not, Muqtar? All this talk about Nishani, heritage being forgotten, but we so easily forgot our daughter. Our Maryam, we lost her.
She chose to leave. We did not turn her away. All we have done is try to give them the best in life. Her and Junaid. But he never left.
No, he didn't, but Safiya.
What about Safiya?
Muqtar, we have a choice to make things right. Who knows if and when we'll ever see Maryam again? Our granddaughter, she is still here. She is here with us. And she is a good girl. Let's not make the same mistake twice.
So, we find ourselves at the interval. We are going to try and keep it as snappy as we can because we are a little bit delayed, obviously, as you've all experienced. On your way out, if you do need to go and relieve yourselves, obviously do so as quickly as you can. There are Guruk chais being served outside, so if you'd like to grab one, you can grab one and come back into the space, and we'll see you in the second half. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Don't come near the front door, someone might have seen you.
Sorry, Sab.
This ritualistic stuff has become tiresome.
As long as they buy the Hindu piety, you're fine.
Where's this fish from?
Malika said it's Karelen.
Oh, what's wrong with the fish from Dover?
I've had confirmation. Rwanda is full. I'm going to start diverting the rats to Namibia.
Do you need me to do anything?
Yes, Ricky, be quiet. It's Suella. Can you start the paperwork for the Namibia phase? Lose the paperwork, press release it in 2 days, because we do not want them to know that it's already happened before the new Refugee Act announcement later. Just do it. Javid is such a weasel.
The others like him.
Your Prime Minister, send him to pensions.
Not sure how comfortable I am with other Asians working on government finances.
Now, come here, look at this again. If you add up the numbers, division makes for more funding, separately by ethnicity, but more so by religious identity.
But combined together, that would increase.
You don't think straight when you're hungry. Eat the fish and chips.
Malaika!
Ji, Saab ji. Oh.
We do know division has worked in the past. We stayed in power for so long because of it. But by blending them in all together, with me as PM and you becoming deputy, we could make this country even greater.
We could, but not with an all-agreeable brown pound. Their businesses make more money having them compete with each other. India's current success is because of Modi's Hinduization of the country, and we can utilise that.
Hope you're not suggesting we start banning Muslims from areas.
Well, playing the brown religions off each other, we control them more. Better a Prime Minister that helps lots of groups than one combined.
But combining them as one means it will be easier to erase them in one go.
Are you disagreeing with me?
Not exactly, I'm just saying.
Well, I wish you wouldn't.
There's two sides to this. There's more than one way to skin browns.
Fine. You, Mimi.
Finances aside, if we combine all the stupidly different South Asian communities, then we only have one unit to control. I mean, we ourselves are leading by example. I mean, we've already done it with the smell curfew. And when we went to eradicate their nonsense language, their ridiculous garb, the unpronounceable name, ugh, the bland food and the rest, it'd be easy. But controlling and pitching to different communities, that's just more work for us. Especially with the younger lot's upswing to the Labour and the Greens.
Oh, the youth are a mere plaything. We can distract them in a second with a stage tweet.
But they're cottoning on.
On to what? Nobody cared about us eliminating the art sector.
They did. They do.
Let me worry about the brown youth. By the time they're quietly walking for Namibia, we'll have suppressed their voter IDs. And we'll have nothing to worry about. Malaika!
Huh? Ji, ma'am ji?
I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Not his.
Oh, sorry. Banjod.
Now she could be our blueprint.
Of what?
A brown, unaccustomed, badly spoken, stupidly dressed, foreign educated. We can change her to our expectation and then present her to other browns on what we want them to become under our rule.
You're thinking straight. She needs to be kept quiet as per Modi's instructions.
You helped him source funding for the Hinduization of India, and in exchange, he's asked you to take in one of his illegitimate kids. That doesn't sound like a fair deal.
He agreed to keep my name out of the setup of the Hinduization. I hide her here, and that's the deal.
As far as I'm concerned, she's in our position. We can do what we like.
Much like the Browns of this country.
Malaika!
Ji, Saab ji.
What's this?
Oh. Nariyal pani.
It's coconut water. Coconut water. Say it.
Coconut water.
You'll get there. Drink it.
Saab?
All of it.
Do as we say. Dirty little maid.
Panchod.
See? Browns are inherently subservient.
So what? A few legal changes, that's simple to do. But it's the current crop that's born and bred here, not so simple to control as well.
But
I don't have time to debate this. Just drive them apart. End of discussion.
Suella, we
Remind me why you're here as Prime Minister. Who lobbied the others to back you after you quit? Who covered your part in the non-dom tax evasion?
You did, but...
And I can always uncover it. Fancy prison, do ya?
It's time.
Set the timer.
Oh, yeah. It's done. Wow. She's not even that passionate. Love that we do this in secret. We should have a secret couple name.
We do. I call you Ricky, and you call me Susie.
And we could be known as Sicky.
You've had your minute.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Focus on how you're going to get the support of the different adult Browns in this country. And to keep you in as PM after the next general election, I need to prep for this press announcement.
Yes, I suppose I'll have to start with another head of religions meeting.
Getting all the heads in individuals is not the right way to go.
It's not been an issue in the past.
Then don't make it one. Look, get the heads in individually, have one meeting for the Hindus, one for the Muslims, and one for the Sikhs, etc., etc. And promise each of them that they're the most important in this country. Promise each of them that they have the most reverence in this country. Promise them each they're the future of this country. Promise protection for their own community votes.
Why are you so insistent on...
Just drive them apart!
And if they don't...
What, don't believe you? They will. Look, the Hindus and Sikhs have already ingrained in the top businesses. The Bangladeshis have cottoned on to the success of Brick Lane. And the Muslims, well, they're always forever trying to prove themselves since 9/11. None of them will want to lose that. And all we have to do is push it a little further. The fear. Just push the fear into them more.
And lower-class fearful people are the easiest to rule.
He's learning. Remember when 9/11 happened? Every brown in this country got it in the neck.
I remember.
Then 7/7 came, and it just got worse. It didn't matter if you weren't Muslim. If you were brown, you were a threat. Watching non-Muslim browns feel threatened by Islamic growth. Pockets of Hindus and Sikhs desperate to protect their own identity and desperate not to be confused with what had happened. People went to great lengths to protect their own communities and their own identities. And we can use that and exploit it.
That was because of terror attacks. I hope you're not suggesting that we create...
No. I hope you're not suggesting I would, Ricky.
I'm not. I'm not.
Good.
You never forget any of it. Those looks, especially after 7/7. Even being higher up, there was judgment.
Yeah.
That recognition I can use as a lure to a common ground. Like you said, if they were brown, they were judged, regardless of religion, caste, or community. It was a commonality, and that fear we all felt. I could use that collective fear to lure them together.
Really not letting it go?
We both want the same thing. For me to stay number 10 for another 4 years. I just think we will have more strength if we unite all the brown folk. Some eons ago, before the British reign, before all of that, there was a united South Asian front. That diaspora was unstoppable. We could build that here. And once we unite them all together, we make them into the thing that they all deep down want to be. White!
What, all of them?
Ji Saab ji? Oh, okay. Carry on.
All of them? All of the diaspora united? All from Afghanistan, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal and Pakistan. All of them agreeing to drop their cultures to finally be white. For someone who considers himself upper class, you are quite thick. Saw this tweet the other day saying something about how Pakistani women needed to take a break from pressures to do with marriage and kids. Got me thinking, all these South Asian women from different communities, different cultures, different religions, all actually have the same pressures, the same compassion, and the same belief in peace. But then here's this woman tweeting about how Pakistanis seem to have it the hardest. I smiled. Because I realised I was right. Eons of traditions and similarities. Deep down, they don't want to be white. They want to be kept apart.
Rubbish! That's just rubbish.
What?
I'm sorry, but...
No, but.
Why?
What?
Why does it bother you?
Why does it bother you?
Because the collective merge will be an easier eradication.
Just lose their languages, lose their cultures, lose their food, just everything. God, blah, 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 just lose it.
We implemented the non-English food order after 3 p.m. rule, and they accepted that very quickly. Let's build on this. We can start by banning all non-English material, films, music, books, everything. If we do that, their languages will fade out. It'll be another step closer to converting them. And once converted, there will be no more of this my community woke nonsense, which only exists through division. But if we push division further, we'll be left with more of this woke crap than could be possible. I didn't come from East Africa. Work hard, get into Oxford, Sanford, for there to suddenly be buses for Bengal babies, or Muslim-free samosas, or Hindu dog rights. I do not want the lower classes in charge of this country.
You are such a xenophobist.
And what if I am? Hating on Browns is exactly what you do too.
I'm proud to be a xenophobist. But how do I know you won't try and blend us in too? How do I know you won't try and eradicate us, or me?
The only ones I'm eradicating are the mass uneducated, brown language speaking, classless fools. You are above all of that.
Tell me more.
Oh, you being a gorgeousness, you are not brown.
No.
Your skin is not brown. No. Oh, raining, you're educated. You're more a Mauritian, Indian, Kenyan heritage. Your mother named you after a white TV character called Sue Ellen. Your skin is not brown, it's sunken. And your blood is white. Swaha. Woo. Swaha. Woo. Swaha.
Then do as I say.
मैम जी,
What?
मैम जी, मैंने जर्नलिस्ट को बाहर देखा है.
What? What are you saying?
Sorry, journalist here. I see outside.
You're telling me this now? Get lost and learn some fucking English.
Sorry, madam ji. Sorry. Mother chod.
I need to go and make this press announcement.
We haven't finished yet.
Ricky.
I know, but you...
Shut up!
You can't ask me.
Ask?
You're asking me to divide when you won't even...
Not asking. Telling you.
But why?
Why? Because they're fools. We agree, right? Browns are fucking fools. You and me, we came here from East Africa. We're the originals. We learnt the importance of putting ourselves first, and Maggie taught us that, embedded it into our blood. From Gujarat to Uganda to Kenya to here, we grew. We learnt through generation after generation how to assimilate. And then the fools arrived, millions of them, came straight into this country, no skill in sight, and started multiplying. Brown fools breeding brown fools like rabbits, and letting more brown fools in. They hated on each other. They carried through their generational hatred and brought it into this country instilled in their dirty blood. And I want no part of it. The whites and the blacks looked at us pathetically. I do not want to be mistaken for that. I do not want to see them unite and blend in. I do not want to see this country overrun by brown fools pretending to be white fools. I want separation. I want the whites and the blacks to see the divided browns and see them as fools. I want to use their fear, their pain as our power. Deep down, they do not crave to be white. They crave to be partitioned. That clear enough for you? Let them tweet about their own communities. Let them fight amongst each other. Let them fear each other. That's what dogs do. But let us control their leashes.
You're right.
It's easy. and you get to rule over it all. And there's nothing they can do about it. Thank you.
What for?
For the added condition on the new Refugee Act.
I aim to please.
That you do. Are you coming outside?
Yes.
Malika!
जी मैडम जी जी
Eat this up.
Let's go. Stand behind me. We won't keep you long. Today we announce the new British Refugee Act. The main headline being, Rwanda is full. Let the next shipment begin. Our successful transfer of refugees is overfilled to that country. So from next month, we will be diverting them to Namibia. And when they are full, we will divide any incoming refugees between Congo and Venezuela. Those boats will barely touch our shores. Furthermore, the Act will also introduce the ban of all non-English communication materials in this country. Books, films, music, papers and the like, not in English, will be illegal from next month. Anyone in possession of such material will be deemed as a refugee and placed on transfer. We will keep Britain English.
Someone's forgot to put the set in the right place. I'll do that now. So, we've seen two scenes back to back, and for fear of not keeping you here till midnight and not ending up in a situation like a night at the museum, we're going to move into this section, which I suppose really is connected anyway. So, anybody have any comments? Actually, no. Before I do that, I need to introduce the panel member for this. Can we all welcome Claire Alexander, please? Claire is a professor. Well, you can tell us a little bit about yourself, but you're a professor of sociology at Manchester University. So if you could just quickly give us a briefing around your interests and where you sort of fit within this conversation, I guess.
Okay, I'm slightly overwhelmed by the history of this chair now. It's a burden.
You're in 10 Downing Street.
So I'm a professor of sociology. I've been working on issues around South Asian migration and race and ethnicity in the UK for about 30 years. I've done a couple of projects on South Asian Bangladeshi young men, Muslim young men, and also on South Asian migration, particularly focusing on Bangladeshi Muslim communities in London.
Thank you. So Claire will be guiding us along this conversation, and feel free, please, to just jump in, Claire, so don't feel like you need to wait for me to come to you. It'd be great to just get some comments, really, first of all. Just from the two scenes that you've seen, I know it seems like it's a long time ago and you've had Gorak Jai in between. Which it'd be great just to see some hands to see any comments around the two scenes and I guess the next part of the conversation.
I think we've got
we have
one.
a few.
Just
we've
one
got
over
the
there.
mics now, so maybe we need to go and give them mics.
Yes.
Cheers, thanks.
How do you think it's up to the youth to tackle the indoctrination?
Sorry, I can't hear you too well.
How do you think it's up to the youth to tackle the indoctrination?
Speak into the microphone.
How do you think it's up to the youth to tackle this indoctrination?
Is that something that you could answer, Claire? How is it up to the youth to tackle the indoctrination?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was thinking, actually, having watched the middle section of this, actually, was about the role of young people and the role of resistance. And one of the things that I think is really important to think about is how those struggles are kind of the same and also change, and the role that young people have always had in moving those conversations on and challenging and pushing back against kind of racism and exclusion. And I think it's really important for young people today to be aware of the histories of their parents and their grandparents who were also once young, who I think people often forget that. So I did some interesting work in Brick Lane with a number of men who are now in their kind of mid-50s, 60s, were kind of portly kind of restaurant owners and looked very conservative and whatever, but were there at the kind of front lines fighting against racism, on Brick Lane in the 1970s, heart of the Asian youth movement. So I think there's a lot that can be learned cross-generationally, but I also think there's the question about racism never really goes away. It changes its form. The people that are doing it are maybe saying different kinds of things, or not quite often a lot of the same things. And I think it's about learning from across generations about how that can be tackled and standing together on that.
Thank you. No, so I think one of the main things that we kind of wanted to really touch upon is just the change, like you say, racism has many different faces. And so the stark difference in the first scene, if you remember, that actually includes 30-year history. By the way, Sam wrote that. This is Sam who wrote that scene.
I hope you enjoyed that scene.
Not to put you on the spot. That it was over a 30-year period, and sort of from the 60s to the early 2000s, and the change that the family goes through generationally, looking at that sort of couple who slowly start really regretting or asking the questions of why they even moved here, and the very stark racism that used to exist on the streets, where physically, actually, where they'd be violence and things thrown into their house, and racism in the traditional sense that we understand or we believe that may have existed, in the past, and it's not part of our society anymore. And then we see the scene with Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman, and how that's completely been warped, and now suddenly the kind of racism that we are seeing, that people of colour are seeing, is something of a very different nature, and really I don't know, a little bit strange, because when you physically see someone who looks like you talking against you in such a way, you really start asking yourself where that's come from, but also you start questioning your own identity and all of that. With all that being said, some people had some hands up that I didn't see. Want to make a point?
Your question originally was just about is the youth's responsibility? It's not the youth's responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility. But I think what's happened is that you've tried to fit so much into that second scene about the transition from people who were born perhaps in India or Pakistan and then moved here. Actually, what I've seen, if you like, the older generation become very reactionary. I count myself in that. I'm 60 now. So a lot of other people now look back and think about, oh, it's fantastic. They're sending money back to India, to Pakistan to actually maintain power. What we can do here is we can create wider discussions across lots of different communities. Because that's one advantage of being here, is that you can have friends from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh on the same street, Sri Lanka and so on as well. So actually, the problem is, people are now going back to institutions, particularly religious institutions. And that's where they're getting a lot of this information from. Actually, get down the street and talk to people who, are from the South Asian diaspora. Discuss some of the differences and tackle them firsthand, not from this stuff that's coming out, particularly the BJP, but also, there are some in other countries that are actually trying to create division. They're actively sending people out, to England and to the US as well, to create this sort of wider idea, this nostalgic idea that, everything was so much better in the past. We've got the opportunity to create something that's new. That's why these pieces of work are so important, because we've got spaces where we can bring people together from different backgrounds.
Thank you so
Thanks very
much.
much for your comments.
I think it's really interesting we're talking about identities and stuff, because obviously we're saying that over time, if we look at the South Asian experience in this country, when we came here, we were first just under the banner of black, or political blackness, as some people might understand it. And slowly that became and shifted to Asian. And now you've got Pakistani, then you had Pakistani, Indian, Bangladesh, obviously when Bangladesh was created. But now you've got Kashmiri, Pathan, etc., etc. Everyone wants to be represented. So what you're talking about is a bit different to that. What you're saying is there's identities being formed along religious lines now. And that's what's causing separation. Now, what would you say is the reason for that, Kalaya, that people are latching onto these identities that are like specifically religious-based, and it almost feels like it's a partition again?
Yeah, I think social media is a really interesting feature, which is, I think, new to this particular setting. So I think that when people first came in the kind of 60s, 70s, whatever. I mean, they came with their ideas of culture, religion, and faith, but it was much more fluid, I think, than perhaps it's become now, where it's circulating back. So when people are thinking about back home, they're not thinking about back home in the way that perhaps your parents and grandparents would have thought about that relationship, that very moving bit in the second segment where the guy's thinking about where he wants to die. I mean, I think that the people's engagement with back home has changed. In some ways, for a good... Some of the Bangladeshi young men that I've worked with, for example, who've been successful, go home, they've gone back to Bangladesh and they're funding schools or they're setting up youth projects. They're doing quite creative kinds of things, but at the same time, there is that kind of global social media thing which connects people up in some ways very positively, say, for example, with the struggles around Palestine, but in other ways very negatively. And we saw that played out in Leicester, for example, those conflicts in Leicester, where I think there was some local stuff, probably some stuff about bored boys, but also some stuff around the Hindu far right and the use of social media and new waves of migration as well. Migration didn't just happen in the kind of 60s, it happens with different kind of formats. And so I think people coming now, often as students or whatever, have quite a different class background, different kind of social background, and they come with complicated histories and complicated politics, I think.
Yeah. And just in terms of, we did ask, we asked the audience actually before the show started to submit any questions. So we did have a question around the sort of unrest, I guess, that happened in Leicester. The person who asked that question, are you brave enough to elaborate on that? Who was that person? I don't even know if they took... Yes. Thank you, sir. You're a brave gentleman indeed.
Of course, I'm going to have to try and remember it now.
I think I've got it here, so I'll try and find it. But go on,
It's quite long. I can read it out if you want.
Yeah, if you've got it.
Is there a legacy effect of partition in other countries? Can disturbances and conflicts, such as that in Leicester in 2022, be linked to what happened in the past? Relatedly, what, if any, parallels can be drawn between partition and the history of Ireland/Northern Ireland? In sum, might partition education be important for violence reduction?
Well, maybe I could just make one point about the last element of that. It seems to me, and I was grateful to a voice on the other side of the room, that whilst there's an understanding of partition in this room, and I've worked very hard to try to understand it myself, broadly speaking in this country, there's a very, very limited understanding of it.
Yeah.
And the stories that are told of, and the words that we used were like unity and things like that. That is an important part of the story. And it seems to me, and I am influenced very much by the last scene, that essentially what we're talking about here is really kind of a fight for our understandings of human nature. And human nature, as I understand it and experience it, is almost entirely a positive concept. And yet, the greatest myth that's ever been propagated in the history of the world is that humans are selfish people. And you can read George Monbiot and the guy from Holland, Rutger, and they argue that actually the people who propagate that are the 1% who are running the country. Yeah. So essentially we get down to power and politics and the division that your artistic performance so well describes.
Thank you so much. And just in terms of... we did get a few questions actually around the idea of partition actually not being unique. I mean, we are talking about obviously the partition that created India and Pakistan, but actually there has been a partition of Northern Ireland, and also many other times, not so many times, but it's not a unique event. Even though the partition of India was the largest migration of humans, but it's not a unique event in global politics, and especially from the empire perspective, because that's, I think, what we really start talking about, especially in the last scene, is that crux of power that gets to decide and gets to move some of those levers in the way they exist. And also just the point that you mentioned as well, Claire, like the whole thing around Bangladeshi. I mean, a lot of Asians actually don't even realise that there was a partition of Bengal.
3 times.
Yeah.
3
so
times.
And that's another area of the story. But what do you think? And maybe we can also bring some of the audience in. But what do you think? Like, why is the story of partition the one narrative that we seem to know, like in terms of you know, the way that the memory is upheld now in sort of modern, within a modern British Asian context, it just seems to be very binary. You know, that whole thing of, yeah, the British left India, still a moot point about whether they were responsible for it, but they left India and we gave them what they want upon leaving. And the memory that seems to exist is just this violence happened, and then we don't really question any further. Like, what do you think is within the British Asian psyche that allows for those memories to be reduced to such a sense there where you don't have any comprehension of anything?
I mean, I was interested in the point you made during the first discussion about the fact that this is very particular, it has resonance in particular communities, so amongst Bengalis, amongst Punjabis, where that happened. So, but they're also largely the communities that came. And so there's something about partition is not the only reason. It's a very long history of migration and entanglement between, you know, the UK and South Asia, obviously. And if Shruti was here, I'm sure she would be able to tell us much more about that. But so I think they're a large percentage of the communities that came, which I guess they bring those memories of violence with. It might well not be as significant with. So the largest number of South Asians that are now in the UK growing are which could be anybody. Yeah. And I suspect it probably doesn't have the same resonance. But what I think is interesting, I think the point that the gentleman there made was around the fact we're not taught it in schools at all. And that's the typical British avoidance of anything that looks remotely difficult or remotely negative or remotely, you know, and the kind of shying away from that. And there are people...
And also, you know, we're in a museum, but also that is another area of learning. We are in a museum, and obviously there's whole conversations around how museums should present the proceeds of empire, I guess, and how they should, and how that should be taught as well.
And there are people that have been pushing to get partition on the curriculum in schools so that it's taught alongside a whole range of other kind of difficult histories. But I think people are so worried it's going to stir up communal, because that's how it's constructed. You can't have those.
So let me just pose you that question, because that is, I think, that is coming to the heart of really some of the stuff that we want to talk about. Is why do you think the idea of it seems to be obviously. I mean, the way that we talk about it seems to be it's very deliberate intention by the establishment to be able to, I mean, it becomes almost like indoctrination or propaganda in a way where, you know, what you are taught within school, say about the World War II, or the fact that you're not taught partition, the fact that you're not really taught about slavery, the fact that you're not really taught about some of these things that are quite debilitating to the idea of Britishness and, you know, the idea of where the land of multiculturalism resides and where all hope and glory rests, right? The fact that there is a conscious decision to be able to not put those and perpetuate the truth of those ideas, do you think that that's something to do with there's something around how control would happen and how there's something around constructed identities around, like the identity, for instance, Britishness. You know, we've been into a couple of screenings that when we did taking the film around, a lot of people do kind of get shocked that British isn't really an ancient or even an identity on ethnical lines at all, and it is a constructed identity just like being American or being Australian is, and these are quite recent identities that now we seem to not really fully understand. We can all say that we're British, but it's not applied the same way with any other ethnicity.
I think people like easy answers, and I think people assume that, you know, simple answers are the best way to go. So I think that, you know, I'm always very influenced by Stuart Hall, who's a sociologist who always talked about both and. So you can hold two, you know, people are capable of immense violence, but also of immense love and kindness. And that, you know, and any identity is always kind of multifaceted, and you know, so we should be able to tell these difficult histories. You can tell the story of Britishness in a kind of warm beer and old Spencers on bicycles if you want to, but there are also more interesting versions of Britishness, even the kind of, you know, Hitler and Henry versions of Britishness, which tell a different kind of more complicated story that I think we've done stuff with on the history curriculum in schools, and you go into classrooms which are very, very diverse, kids whose families are from everywhere, and they're able to talk about the things that their families share in common if it is a history of migration, often quite traumatic, but also alongside the kind of, you know, so they're able to talk about the things that they share, the love for their city, the love for their school, the love for their teacher, alongside the things that kind of make it different. And I think that being able to deal with complexity and not being afraid of it, which is one of the things, you know, I think it's fear and guilt, maybe? Yeah. I don't know, about kind of confronting those darker parts of Britain's past.
Yeah. And just going back to, so I'm going to come out to the others. I know you've got a couple of hands up. Keep them up if you can. If you get tired, you can put them down, obviously. just the whole, going to the second scene that you saw just before the interval happened, the idea of sort of integration, because what we're really talking about, and the integration, or the beginning of integration, kind of started really in the big waves of the 50s, 60s migrations, and that slow process of integration, and how those new identities are coming out from, are slowly emerging, and not really being done with a pre-thought of plan, but something that is just gradually happening. Do you think that there's something around the idea of the disunity of Black and Asian communities, for instance? I mean, there's diversity within the Asian communities, there's diversity within the Black communities, but those two labels always seem to be put together in a certain sense, but they're not being so done now, if you know what I mean. It's not common for Black and Asian to be described as that.
I mean, I'm of an age where I don't need to have someone put white in my head, so the grey is just there. And I remember when, people talked about Black as an inclusive identity. Yeah. And I think from the 80s and 90s onwards, there was a deliberate policy by local government, by central government, to move away from things like the Asian youth movements after the riots in Brixton and so on in the 80s, to sponsor ethnic and religious identities as a form of control. I mean, you would know that more, because it happened a lot in the north. It happened in Bradford, I'm sure it happened. Yeah. So it was basically a way of kind of buying off particular communities, assuming that those community elders would be able to keep the young people under some kind of control, and then, of course, that's not quite what happened. So I think that was a very deliberate kind of policy. I think that at an everyday level, I think that's the point you're trying to make, is that things have always been more complicated than that. Connections have always been more complicated. The kind of conflicts, but also the common humanity has always been more complicated than that. And that, I think, is where I find little elements of hope amongst the general grimness.
Yeah. Can we take a comment from that gentleman over there?
There's one up there.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes.
The last sketch in particular shows what is becoming more obvious to people now, which is that we have, regardless of the color of the face, in power, what we have in this government, the American government, and everywhere else is a perpetuation of white supremacy, even if the people look like you and me. And, you know, speaking as an African, seeing and having a small understanding of how people from India who migrated to East Africa treated the Africans as inferior, it is now becoming clear to people that what we are dealing with is not race, but class and imperialism, and the same white supremacy that leads to the biggest migration from Eastern Europe to the land of Palestine. And we are seeing white supremacy at its worst. So when I see people like Suella Braverman and Ricky
Samar, you can forget his name.
And the likes of David Lammy and, you know, and the black people, I think if one is looking for hope, one finds it in the sense that, okay, we need to look at people differently. What are their motives? Who do they serve by being there? And it is this 1%, whatever the elite is. And so let's hope that the youth are getting wiser to it than we did.
Let's hope. Can we take a comment just from that gentleman there at the back? Do we have a mic up there?
Thank you. I have a question. Just a bit of context. It's quite evident, right back from our ancestors, that we South Asians seek gratification, validation, and a sense of belonging. And that's been used as a form of division. That also leads to an illusion of meritocracy. I can't say it. Meritocracy.
Meritocracy,
How do you tackle something like that when there's so many layers within that? I'd just be interested in your thoughts on that.
Claire, is that a question?
When you say meritocracy, what do you mean?
So going back to that story, it was we come here, we work hard, we want to get to a level, but then you'll question whether that level, when you get there, what do you go? Where do you go next? Is that progress? Is that a form of entrapment? Is that prison? Because you questioned it, what you were taught and the idea of working hard to get to somewhere, and then realizing that we're still where we were right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Sounds
sure that's
like a
South-
conservative policy to me,
South
but yeah, I get what you're
Asian-
saying.
I'm not sure it's a specifically South Asian thing. I think it might be a migrant thing and maybe a human thing. People want to feel like they belong somewhere, and how people decide to do that, but I think that those barriers are still there. They're not there in the same way, so I wouldn't necessarily assume that no progress has been made. And one could see Rishi, and so I'm never going to be able to unsee that sketch. It's seared into my brain. I mean, it's progress of a kind, not necessarily the one we would want, but it shows something, not necessarily. I think progress is always a much more complicated thing. Success is a complicated thing. Belonging is a complicated thing. I think it's about resisting where you can and trying to kind of maintain a sense of common humanity. I think it is that balance that we were talking about after the first scene about partition. It is that kind of, you should be able to feel like you belong and know where you belong and use that as a basis to reach out to others.
Yeah. But then
It
when you
shouldn't be
have,
an either or.
but when you have instances like what's going on in the news right now with Diane Abbott and the whole thing around, whether you constantly see, and I see this on Question Time a lot, like whether racism actually exists in this country. When you see things like that, is that really maybe I'm wrong, but then I think you start questioning whether we are in a post-race society. But then you have instances like the Diane Abbott situation that's happening, where she's basically standing up 46 times, not being given space when the whole thing's around the controversies around her and.
But then you've also got the
anything you see in the news these days absolutely shows that we're not in a post-race society. Whether it's migrants drowning in the Channel, the stuff that's happening in Palestine, everywhere, it's very clear black and brown bodies do not count.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody that doesn't think that, but at the same time, that is not to say there has not been changes in that. Racism is a very adaptable process.
Yeah.
And it changes in terms of where it takes place and how it takes place, what the discourses is, what the practices are, what the consequences are. But the question is, what do you do about that? Do you just give up? I mean, you can't just give up, so you have to, fight it where you find it, I think.
Yeah, and I think the issue is when you've got the Sewell report, which is legitimising that conversation, but from a Blount and Bratt perspective. So where does that kind of fit in as well? I think there was another question.
So we are very nearly near the end of our show. So can we just take some final points rather than sort of questions, maybe comments?
Yeah.
It's not really a question, it's more an observation and just some feedback. I think the whole show has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been mind-blowing, much higher than what I expected. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
That last scene was so powerful because it speaks a million words. And we are in very worrying times right now. We're in very worrying times where the shift is changing. And one of the things that keeps coming to my mind is 1,000 whispers becomes a roar. And we, the people of the United Kingdom, we, the people of Southeast Asia, have so much more power than what we know. And I think it's so important to be together in unity. And a quote by Martin Luther King keeps coming to me in these times again and again, and it's, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." And I think it's love. Love is the answer to all of this, because we come together, we do what we can, and we keep fighting for freedom. And we're no different today than what we were in the partition, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for putting this together.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And I think that is unfortunately, a fitting comment to really end our night. I think, obviously, ending with a quote from Martin Luther King, who also took inspiration from Gandhi, and that led to the Indian independence. I mean, look, guys, this is really such a complicated topic, and there was no hope in hell for us ever to have covered every aspect. But I hope we've given you all. You're absolutely itching to make 1 point, so go on without a microphone if you can. Quickly. He's giving him a microphone, so we're going to be here. It is the night
that was the only comment.
I'm from South India. I've
me or any of my relatives or friends have gone through the atrocities and sufferings of partition. But I grew up in a remote village in Kerala. I grew up reading Aisha Jalal, Rajmohan Gandhi, the Lapierre, and 100 other books. And I used to weep reading all those sufferings. And that shaped my outlook about religious harmony or interaction between people. What I want to say is, we have a tendency, or we have seen it here, we have been blaming the British rightfully, blaming the British for their divide and rule policy. But at this solemn, sombering moment of partition, at this sombering moment of India's and Pakistan's and Bangladesh is different, 77th anniversary of freedom. And this is also the 77th anniversary of the first terrorist attack in India. That was the killing of Mahatma Gandhi. You know, we have been blaming British for their divide and rule, but what have we done to ourselves? You know, on one side we had the Hindu Mahasabha, Savarkar, and all on one side, trying to drive away the Muslims from India.
I'm going to have to rush you, Sayyid.
And on the other, sorry?
I'm going to have to rush you if you can make your final point.
And on the other end, we had Muslim League and other partitioning forces that compelled for partition.
Yeah.
What have we done to ourselves after the partition?
Yeah.
Have we tried to avoid those kind of, whatever the hatred that led to the partition of India? No.
Yeah.
Now, I know personally that we are exporting,
10 seconds,
we are sending millions of pounds to India and Pakistan to support the religious divisionist activities in India and Pakistan. And India and Pakistan are exporting religious intolerance to the Britain. So we, as Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladesh, it's time for us to retrospect and realize that it's with us. It's with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We hear you. And I think it's a fantastic point to make right at the end. I think it's a point that brings unity. Look, guys, like I was saying, this is such a complex topic, and there was no hope in hell for ever to have covered it. But as long as we've incited you enough to be able to at least start the conversations about the partition, or about race, about identity, about Britishness, that does obviously bring us to the end of our journey here. It's been an absolute privilege. I know I can speak for Sam as well. It's been an absolute privilege to hear your contributions and for you to open up in the way that you guys did. Honestly, it's been an honour. It's one of the reasons why we do this. I'd just like to quickly, if you could give a round of applause to Claire, our panellist. And also our fabulous actors, Ashim Gupta, Narinder Uppal, Safa Butt, and Hassan Khan. And if we could also give a special thanks to you guys. Can we give you a round of applause for being here and sharing all of this? So, guys, just one final couple of things before we go. This is the first time we've actually held Tribe Talks after so long about the partition, especially in Leeds. We've been taking it around the country. But, you know, you've been to a Tribe Talks, you've experienced it. Please shout about it on social media. If you've taken any pictures, please upload it. You can tag us in all the social media platforms. We are Tribe Arts. This was Tribe Talks, and you've been a fabulous audience, guys. Thanks very much for coming. Good night. God bless. Have a great time.